Dearly beloved, I got a fun episode in store for you. I have a special guest who is a longtime friend, came to Get Shit Done retreat a long time ago, was in one of my original online courses, the Great E-Course Adventure. It was like Saturday Night Live meets Indiana Jones is in an online course creation journey. And he's doing some pretty inspiring work in the world. So, with me today is Chris Gilmour, who has over 20 years of practical experience and passion for holistic living, bridging ecology, community, culture with emergency preparedness, healthy human development, and sustainable business practices. And Chris has been weaving in and out of my orbit for a bunch of years. We collaborated on an incredible course. I want to say about 6 years ago called Survive the Storms. That was a 7 day storm survival course using the theme of a news reporter. Basically, every day of the course would start with a news reporter broadcasting about a superstorm that was about to hit your area, and Chris would come on as the guest on this news channel to help you prepare for the storm. And then, when the storm had actually hit, what to do in the days afterwards. And in the 7 days, you, as the participant, by spending about 20 to 30 minutes a day, would develop all of these emergency preparedness skills while going through this really fun themified adventure as a family, a classroom, etc. And so today we're going to talk about Chris's journey over the last decade or so of going from an outdoor wilderness guy guiding groups, doing coaching, facilitating, consulting, etc., to becoming an online creator and the ways that's impacted Chris, his life, his business, and the lessons he's learned through that creative process. So, Chris, thanks for being here.
Yeah, this is so fun to reconnect. As you said, I met you, geez, I don't even remember when that was, the e-course adventure days, but probably 6, 7 years ago. And then kind of was drifted off and did my own thing. And now I'm back in the magic mine, as the vision continues to evolve. So this is exciting. And I was reflecting today. It's kind of fun, I didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. I was literally just like a broke outdoors guy that wanted to make more money and thought, oh, maybe I could do something online.
Let's
And like
go to the internet. I hear they
yeah,
give money
I
there.
heard you can make money on the internet, and oh boy, was there a lot of I was pretty disillusioned about what that actually looked like.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot over the last 7, 8 years, and it's kind of cool. I don't teach people how to run online business, but I actually feel like I have a ton to offer from what I've learned through my own journey
Yeah.
over the last almost decade now. So doing this and,
You
and, and
definitely
reaching
do.
like a level of success where I feel like I've got a pretty sweet lifestyle business and stuff's starting to really grow and get some momentum and it feels good. And yeah, and a big part of that's been kind of connecting with you over the years and getting some mentoring too from your journey.
Well, I'm always glad to help. I think most people that go from teaching or doing something in person in the real world to building their online business have this fantasies that it's just going to be pure passive income and it's super easy and uncomplicated, but it's the opposite of all those things. And so
That is
um
absolutely true.
yeah, maybe you could just kind of run us through like what that journey's been like for you of going from just being like an outdoor specialist guide to building, you're building online courses, you're doing a signature workshop. Right now, you're working on a bunch of big licensing partnerships. Like, what has that journey been like from going from the wild to the wild west of the internet?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's a fun one to think back to. So imagine starting out. I've been working actually for myself already. So I've been self-employed for almost 20 years. But I was working as like basically teaching like kind of wilderness survival classes, doing a little bit in the world of like permaculture and herbalism, foraging. I was really into mushroom growing, and I actually have an online course. One of my best courses right now is all around mushroom growing.
Give us the
Um,
URL while you're on it. What's the URL?
sure, yeah, the mushroomcourse.com if anyone wants to check it out. But so, anyways, so I'm into all that kind of stuff as a passion. I love it, but I'm not making enough money to really support myself. Every year I'm a little further in debt than I was the year before, and I'm burning myself out because I'm teaching all of this in person. So it's like purely passion. I know I'm having an impact on people, but I'm burning out and I'm getting older and I'm getting in debt. I'm not saving for the future. Um, and that got hit a place where I was like, I started losing my passion in it because it's like it's not actually supporting the lifestyle I want anymore, even though I'm passionate about the work. I'm helping others. I don't feel like I'm helping myself right now.
Mm.
So I kind of went down that rabbit hole of like, hey, I heard the internet, you can make all this easy passive money. Yes, turns out that's a bunch of hogwash. I mean, So anyways, I went down that journey of just like watching all the like gimmicky webinars about how to make money online and yada yada yada. I designed my first online course which was actually around wildlife tracking, and it had like a moderate degree of success. I did it a partnership with this other organization at the time called We Are Wildness that had this cool outdoor brand, and that was the like, oh cool, maybe there is some potential here. You know, maybe I could make some money. And in amongst all of the cheesy, sleazy stuff, I came across a webinar for the e-course adventures that you were running at the time. And I was like, oh man, finally here's something that doesn't feel kind of sleazy to me and just like aligns with my values better, you know? And I wanted to, so the the tracking course was cool, but it had a really low follow through rate. Like people would sign up, but they wouldn't actually finish the course, meaning
Yeah.
they didn't get the results. And that was kind of like, as somebody who actually is doing this for more than money, yes, I want to make money, but I also care about my students. I hit this place of being like, that's not very fulfilling if most people aren't doing it. And I realized just this like boring, like talking head videos going through just didn't keep people engaged through to the end. And so I came across what you were doing with e-course adventure, which was like, you know, the Netflix of videos, I think is how you talked about, or of e-courses. You know, how do you make these like truly engaging experiences?
Yeah.
So that was kind of like phase one of the journey. You and I partnered on a course, this survived the storms. I started a brand but actually kind of went all in on the online world and tried to do everything. And it was actually hit that like next wave of burnout. You know, I bought all the fancy things. I spent way too much money on AppSumo and all these other courses and yada, yada, yada. And then I tried to have a blog and a YouTube and social media and a podcast and do it all. So I
Before
started making,
AI, where you actually had to do it all and you
yeah,
couldn't just
before
like
AI.
leverage
Yeah.
these tools to do it for you. But yeah,
Yeah. So long story short is like, you know, I started making some money online, but I also was now spending a lot of money, spending a ton of time, not having much time in the outdoors and hit like the next wave of burnout. I was literally right before COVID hit. My wife and I went to Costa Rica and I was ready to throw in the towel and just be like, I'm done with this whole online journey. I just want to be outside again. So that's where my headset was. COVID hit. And it turned out that like all that work I'd done, those few years building up, just put me in the perfect position to now kind of capture everybody coming online
wow.
and actually already be thinking a little more innovative about that. So then that's kind of like phase two of the, or maybe phase three of the journey was like, so I rode COVID for a couple of years, started really learning, refining what I was doing, switch from the kind of, I do have some evergreen stuff still, but like switch to more of these like cohort based courses.
Yeah.
Cause I realized so many people, they want the community, they want the engagement. And I don't like watching boring talking head videos either. You know, I wanted something for
You
myself.
want to be
So
live
I,
together.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
started just really thinking about how do I deliver like way more value in these online experiences for people. Started getting really good feedback that it was working. You know, a lot of people said like I've had a bunch of people tell me like I was kind of like part of the story of what helped them get through COVID, like our like connections through the courses, which is
Amazing.
super super rewarding. And then you know just to finish that up, you know there was another almost like drop off after that because everyone was burnt out with online stuff a couple years after COVID, and then everything fell off, and I almost had to like go back to the drawing board and reimagine stuff again, which kind of takes me to where I am now. And maybe the couple of points that your audience might find interesting here is like in that journey, I had a couple big wins that came together that made me start again being like, oh, wow, I can see the potential of going in this direction. And that's what brought me back to the Magic Mind that I'm in again with you right now. And one of those was having a couple of partnership webinars where I actually found people that had big audiences because I was working so hard to build an audience
Yeah.
and it's so much work. I was getting so burned out. I was so sick of posting reels on social media and how much time it was taking. And like,
Not fun.
I didn't enjoy it. And I wasn't actually getting much return on that time.
Yeah.
Um, and there was two people in the States that had large audiences that I managed to get their attention. I offered the one of them I offered a webinar for their audience, and it was my best grossing webinar ever. Like literally was the first webinar that did over $10,000. Up until that point, I don't think I'd had done a webinar that did more than maybe like 1,000 or so. And then
Yeah.
suddenly we had like a $10,000 plus webinar, leveraging an audience that this girl already had. So I didn't have to build it. And that was just like, boom, light
That's the
bulb.
power of the signature workshop. I mean, that's how
And
I
then
stumbled into signature workshops. It was just by fluke. It was like, oh my God, I've never seen results like this before.
yeah. And then the other one was a licensing deal, which I know you talk about as well too. So
Yeah.
basically, there was a guy in the States who had a TV show. I could probably just name him. Creek Stewart's his name. I forget what the name of his show is, but he's a pretty famous survival expert in the US. Had a TV show, and he had a school, an online school, and I licensed my course to his school. And the sales did great, and I didn't have to do any advertising because he was already famous. I didn't
Yeah.
need to be famous. So those two things just kind of like open the door to like, oh, maybe there's a different way to approach this than me having to like hustle on social media. And sure enough, like right as I after that, I came across you and Tad again. I mean, I've been we've been buddies and talking and stuff, but I like realized like what you were doing with the signature workshop tour. I'm like, oh, I kind of came to that idea on my own is what really
Yeah,
made the most sense. And now you guys are like doubling down on it. I'm like, sweet, I want to reconnect with you and see what you're learning, share what I've been learning. So I actually rejoined up with the Magic Mind. And literally before we got on this podcast, I just hired, kind of on your advice, my first signature tour manager. So I've
yeah,
got a girl, my first employee, that's going to be helping me basically run this signature tour for my course on how to grow and forage edible and medicinal mushrooms.
amazing.
So super exciting.
So you've got your 60-minute workshop that can then lead into the paid training program. That same paid training program can also be something that you license to other bigger platforms that want to house that. I mean, those two strategies right there for everybody listening. You have an education business, you have really high quality products that you've designed and created. Those like the signature workshop that's going to build you a big audience. The licensing model, which I mean, my meditation library has generated 450,000 plus dollars over the last 7 years of purely passive income. Just like you said, it's like you go to these platforms, they build your audience for you, they build your income for you. You just leverage the assets you've already created, and you don't have to do any work once they're licensed and up there. And I love hearing stories like that because I know it to be true for myself. Those two strategies have worked so well, and I think you doubling down on both of those this year, leveraging the assets you've built through new relationships, new networks, put you in front of new audiences that they do the marketing and generate the revenue for you, and you can get your work out to more people with less effort. And then the signature workshop is like leveraging all the relationships that you've already created, that you have in your orbit. Clearly the work that you do, like you've built a name for yourself and you've built a big enough body of work that some of these big names are going to be excited to pay attention and figure out win-win collaborations with you. So I just love it.
It's
So
interesting how it stacks too, because I found like,
yeah.
getting a hold of like bigger name people with bigger audiences is hard to get in through the front door. But once you get into it, I'm now able to kind of like name drop, like, because I've
Yes.
gotten a couple other bigger affiliates now too, where it's like, hey, I did the pioneering podcast and did something with Melissa K. Norris, which is a huge name in the homesteading world down in the States.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this other group I'm working with, Homesteading Family, took me seriously because I'd worked with Melissa K. Norris. So the work kind of all starts to build on itself, over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Um,
And it does, I mean, people have to remember like this is a long game that we're playing here. It's not a get rich quick scheme. And you have to like count the wins as they happen and recognize, like, look back the trail that you've just come up and realize how many steps you took to get this name, and then you take more steps and it's like, oh, we just got this name. I mean, we're doing that with Magic Kids. We've just signed 6 licensing partnerships. These are huge opportunities. We're going to be in thousands of stores in the coming months. We're going to be like 20,000 plus libraries and schools through some of these partnerships. But like these conversations, from the point of reaching out to them to the point of like where we're actually on the shelf or in their product line, is like a year's time. These are long game conversations that don't necessarily cash in immediately, but it's worth the effort to establish those foundational pieces.
Yeah, and I wish more business coaches would talk about that up front, because that's not what I was sold when I was first looking into this. And I think I would have gone for the journey anyways.
Yeah.
But I would have been a little bit more realistic and set myself up for success and maybe less burnout. Although it's beautiful, like I'm hitting the point now where I'm able to actually free up more time for like my personal passions again, and spending
Yeah.
my time in the forest and starting to get geeky with like even mushroom growing techniques, and
Yeah.
the types of stuff that I really love. And as that time frees up, I'm actually able to make even better experiences for my students because I'm feeding myself again, which I was just in this cycle of like not being able to feed myself for so long. And then I think it showed in the authenticity that I brought forward. So I feel like I'm actually able to re-step into my work in a more authentic way. Like I'm really excited about what we're going to do with the mushrooms course this year because I've actually got the capacity to be creative with it again, which I
Yeah.
haven't up until now because there wasn't enough money coming in and I was just hustling. And now
Yeah.
that there's a bit more of a buffer for the money, I actually can free up some capacity to get creative with the actual course itself and my learning around the skill set even.
Yeah, the hustling is a fine balance. When you're in need of the finances to fund your life, to build the next pillar of your life's work, it's a fine balance between like the hustling to get it done, to build the body of work, which you needed to build to be at the stage that you're in right now. And so, like in life and business, there's chapters where it's time to push, it's time to hustle. And then there's times where it's like, it's time to just collect on the things that we've already built. And the collection time is like, let's license this body of work. Let's find really values aligned collaborations that can help leverage this body of work that we just hustled our asses off for 3 months and we did a big push. And because like a lot of people just want to like just coast or just hustle all the time. And we need to like have this nice balance of pushing and resting and collecting and receiving from what we've already built. So I'm curious, tell us more about what your plan is moving forward from here. You kind of like talked about the past. So what are your main focuses? What are you most excited about? And why are you excited about these pieces?
Yeah, great. Um, yeah, I think so. Really doubling down on what's working, and that's probably I've tried a lot of different things now, and like this whole idea of leveraging other people's audiences is
Yeah.
really working. And then through doing that, though, I am building my own audience now, right? So I'm really wanting to really build a good, solid relationship between myself and my own audience. So I'm doubling down on my newsletter this year,
Yeah.
and really working a lot on that through the work we're doing in the Magic Mind and the group that I'm in with you right now. So really, and I'll say up until now with like my newsletters and all my stuff, I've always been like winging everything.
Yeah.
And now that I'm like, I've finally got some momentum and I've got some time freed up for creativity, I'm really excited to be like way more intentional about like how I'm sharing with my audience and the storyline that I'm taking them through and the journey I'm taking them on.
Yeah.
And I'm really want to offer tons of value, even if they're not going to buy anything from the newsletter. Um, so having people that actually look forward to reading my newsletter is something that I really want to focus on this year. And I know there is a fraction of or a percentage of folks that are already there, but I know I want to do even better. Like I want an awesome newsletter this year that really captures the essence of what I do, and why there's value for it in the modern world. And then inevitably that is going to be the marketing for the people when I launch new products or bring new things out. So that's a big focus. The second focus is leveraging the signature workshop.
Yeah.
So as I said, I just hired somebody that's going to help me kind of take that on tour and look for new affiliates, podcasts, new ways to get that out, and really double down on how we get that out to the world. And then the third thing I'm working on, I want to go back to the drawing board with one of my original courses. So
Mm.
it started off as that evergreen tracking course, like how to read the story written in wildlife footprints, which was okay. I turned that into a cohort-based course, which was a lot better, where we'd have like regular calls. But
Yeah.
that was actually still kind of like a lot. Like the calls I would do them weekly, and it was exhausting to do them weekly.
Yeah.
And I would do these big launch pushes. So I was now making more money, but I was still working really hard in front of a computer more often than I wanted to.
Yeah.
So I've got this vision now of kind of utilizing everything I've learned, the best of kind of what technology has to offer, and kind of reimagining what that can be as an online course, and how it could actually fit a better lifestyle for myself. So I'm actually thinking about doing kind of these twice a year where I do a bigger launch, bring a group in, I'm with them for like say 8 to 12 weeks. Um, and then if they want to keep going, I'm just doing kind of like a monthly check-in, and they've got access to all these other things that I've built. Because I've,
Yeah.
I've created so much content now. I've such a bank of resources, videos, writing. So I have enough for a membership right now. Um, I'm not super keen about running a membership where I have to be super active, but I think there's going to be value to being like, bring a bunch of new people in. I do a more intensive experience with them. And then if they want to stay on, they have access to this giant bank of content I've made. And once a month I come on and we just have some community time together. So those
It's
are
such
kind of
a
my
great
three
way
focuses.
to launch a membership. I'm sorry, just to jump in. It's such a great way to launch a membership is like you run cohorts and every time the cohort finishes, people want more. It's like here's this monthly subscription that's like we still meet every month. There's the community that you can stay connected to. There's all these other courses. It's a great model to go. And it's like I call that what you're calling your tr flagship training is what I would call it. Is
Right.
like it's something you could run 2 to 4 times a year. All of your signature workshops are pointing people in this direction of like, here's the next training, join this, and then they go into the subscription model. Because
Yeah, so that'll be nice, and then hopefully actually generate some more consistency in income. So that's kind of the plan for this year. Now I'm pretty excited about that, as well as just doubling down on the mushroom course itself. Like
yeah,
mushrooms are a pretty trending topic right now for
yeah,
a good reason. I mean, they're
yeah.
amazing. medicine, food, self-reliance. So I'm excited to actually add a whole bunch of more value to that course this year as well.
Well, and I would just add to the list, and this could be something that your assistant could research, is like who are the institutions, the online schools, the influencers, the hubs that are currently selling wilderness, survival, preparedness, foraging, homesteading
Mhm.
trainings that you could license your course inside of their library, that it could be you become one of the educators in there, they market it, they sell it, you collect. It's like for a few hours, like it's 3, 4 hours of research time for your assistant to like come up with 10 keywords for like the types of schools that you would be a good fit to license it to. I just named five, I think.
Mhm.
And you get them to do the research on those schools, create an outreach template, which we have in the Magic Mind for you, and strike a conversation about licensing. If you got 5 or 6 licensing partnerships by the end of the year, that's tens of thousands of dollars of revenue for sure. It could be 6 figures plus if you get the right partners who want to license your training from you. And then you could, to integrate into their ecosystem, your signature workshop, you could offer to run that once a year, quarterly, whatever they was. Like, I have this 60-minute workshop. I can run this for your audience every, 3 to 6 months or whatever works for you. And then
That,
you
that's a neat sales pitch there. I hadn't thought about when I'm preaching people about licensing, still offering to do the signature workshop as part of the licensing deal. That's a great idea, Brad.
it's just like it's an easy no-brainer for you to show up and like here's the free thing for your audience that'll then sell the paid thing and they're gonna know like the more paid programs they sell the more money they make, so it'll just make it easier for them to be able to sell to their audience. um I think between the signature workshop, the licensing that you're talking about, I mean this is gonna be a phenomenal year for you.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. One thing I think that's really neat about the licensing and coming back to some of the big lessons I've had. So I started playing around with affiliate sales like quite a long time ago.
Yeah,
Actually, when we were doing Survive the Storms. And at the time, I think maybe folks, hopefully this is valuable for some folks in your audience. At the time, I just kind of thought, oh, the more affiliates, the better, because there's just more income streams coming in. But what I realized, is there's a certain amount of work to managing affiliates. And I took on a whole bunch of affiliates that had audiences that were like the same size as me, maybe a little bigger or even a little smaller, and realized I was spending a ton of work in the communications, the web signature workshops, all of this, and very little income was actually coming in. And then I had like kind of 2 affiliates that made way more income than all of the other affiliates together.
yeah,
Um, so a big shift for me in my thinking about it was also like more is not necessarily better when it comes to affiliates or income streams. You want the right people that are really aligned with your brand and that actually have the outreach. So I'm focusing on, and it's kind of neat because this girl that I just hired, kind of her first draft of people she looked out to, she was kind of just looking at everybody that was doing something in my niche. So today I was kind of being like, hey, no, we actually want to look for people that have like a really large newsletter list and they tend it well,
yeah.
and that have, social media followings of a particular size. Like, let's actually shoot a little bit bigger. We actually want less affiliates, but like the really good ones that really have that outreach. Now, the one way licensing overcomes that, though, is
Yeah.
because the licensing, you just put it up there and it's in their ecosystem, and there's so little work compared to even the signature workshop.
And I would just add to it to make your life really easy because, we've done 40 signature workshops in the last couple years and it's minimal work. And one of the reasons it's minimal work is because when somebody says, yes, I want to partner with you, or yes, I want to be an affiliate, and I don't know if you're doing this, but if you're not, this is your next step, is you design a media page and the media page tells them everything they need to know. So then once they say yes, you're like, great, here's the media page with all the information, how to sign up as an affiliate, how to book the signature workshop, the 3 promotional emails that you're going to send, the 5 social media posts that they just add their own link to, all the banner images, the copy that they need to copy and paste, the PDF that they might want to share, your bio, links, etc., headshots. And in one click of the button, it saves the majority of the back and forth communications other than if they book a date following up 2 weeks in advance, be like, hey, do you need anything from me, or are you ready to promote this? We're going live in 2 weeks. And
That's
that
why I came back to the Magic Mind, because like I kind of had a version of that, but it was like a lot less efficient. So I've been loving being back in the Magic Mind because now it's just helping me really refine all these systems and really tweak everything.
Well, and I think the thing is like I became an entrepreneur for freedom. And so when I discover a strategy that's working, I immediately go to systemizing it in the best ways possible so that I have more freedom in my lifestyle so I don't have to do tedious shit. And I think that's what you're going to is like, okay, we've got these assets, we're leveraging these assets. Now let's build a robust system and workflows around what your intentions are so that you can minimize the amount of work that you have to do on the day to day to maintain the thing that's actually generating the audience or the money that's coming in.
Yeah, then I can spend less time talking about foraging mushrooms and more time actually in the woods foraging them.
That's exactly it. Yeah. For me, I just want to spend more time hanging with my kiddo or golfing or playing t-ball.
Although
And
honestly, I love talking about mushrooms too, though. Don't get me wrong. I actually love delivering my signature workshop. So
that's great. That's a good sign you're on the right track in your life's work when you love talking about it, doing it. You're just in the right flow. So for people that are let's say they're back at the stage that you were at 6 or 7 years ago when you got on the internet. Maybe they're little bit ahead. They're posting or they're blogging or making a little bit of content regularly, but they're still early stages. They're not, say, paying for their entire lifestyle from the internet. Any advice, any thoughts you'd want to leave people with?
yeah, I think I could probably refine a couple really clearly. So one of them would just be uh, consistency over time really does pay off, you know? I wish that I wasn't so naive when I went into it and that I didn't kind of drink the Kool-Aid and that I was actually just a little bit more realistic with the timeline and realize that like just stay consistent and it really does build, you know?
Yeah,
There's a Tony Robbins quote I love that's we often overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in a decade. So I always think about that one, you know, because for me it very much is like, you know, stuff is like building like with like that ball rolling down the hill that just keeps or
yeah,
the snowball that just keeps picking up, you know, and I feel like I'm at a place of like some really serious momentum. But it took just being consistent through the hard times, you know.
yeah.
And if I'd been more realistic about that journey, I probably would have done it in a more healthy and balanced way from the start instead of pushing myself to burnout a couple of times in the journey. So that would be one piece. Probably the other one is just, you know, being authentic and leveraging relationships feels huge for me. When I started out, I was trying to do all the gimmicky things that I was seeing in the cheesy, like get rich quick stuff, and people pick up on that. And I'm pretty sure I might have even turned off some of the people that were already following me because I tried to be gimmicky. And
Yeah.
like, you know, listening to Tad Hargrave, you know, and Marketing from Hippies, just talk about how important it is to be authentic. Um, and the more authentic I am, the more I realize that people are even in this world, like there's a ton of competition. You can take mushroom courses and nature courses all over the place. They're coming to me because they like me as a person. They're like, really cares about this. He actually cares about me. He's not perfect, you know, like so being authentic and being yourself. But that also takes so much pressure off too to just like be you and not have to be gimmicky and try and put on a face for social media or whatever, you know. So being authentic, being consistent over time. The newsletter is huge. I wish that I've been pretty good the last few years of tending my newsletter, and still like outside of like the licensing deals or the odd webinars, like the majority of my income still comes from my newsletter.
Same.
And for years, I would kind of like write a newsletter, and then I went for 3 months, and then I'd write one or two in a row, and then I wouldn't. I wish I just got consistent with the newsletter and tended it in a really authentic way right from the start. I bet you I would be substantially further ahead. The newsletter also pulls in new licensing deals and opportunities too. Like I'll get people that just like respond to a newsletter and be like, "Hey, I've got this private group that we want to book you," or "Hey, do you want to be the keynote speaker for this thing?" And like, so it's just like money comes in from the newsletter and being authentic and consistent. So those might be some of my top ones that I would offer for folks.
I love
Um,
it. I echo the newsletter. That's why it's the number one relationships-based marketing strategy in the signature workshop training. Or in my business without social media training is like it is your gold. You own the newsletter. Build that list, tend to that list. Those are real people on the receiving end. And it's like, you're like, well, I only have X number of people on there with a 20 or 40% open rate or whatever it is. But those are real people reading it. Those are real people interested in the words that you're speaking. And so speak them carefully and tend to those relationships with a lot of love and generosity.
Yeah.
And good
And
things
offer
will
true
come.
value, you know, like I don't just write newsletters when I'm trying to sell something. You know, I write
Yeah.
newsletters now like, you know, regularly, and most of them I'm not selling anything. I'm actually like sharing what I know they're interested in. And then when I do go to sell something, they're actually genuinely interested, or they're not offended or turned off that I'm trying to sell something. They're just like, oh, they're Chris. I like him. Cool. I'll hear about his sales pitch now, because it's not just about sales. Like I'm truly offering value.
Yeah,
Um, and once in a while, I've got something to sell you
I
that
love
actually has value to it.
I love it. Well, speaking of value, hopefully this conversation is valuable for people. We're gonna circle back in probably like a few months once you've got your signature workshop underway to talk about like, okay, you've sent out 100 emails. How many did you book? How much has
Yeah.
your email list grown? How has that impacted your revenue? How are your licensing conversations going? So, in the next edition of Chris coming on, the Making Majik podcast, we're going to dig into some of these numbers of like, okay, we're 3, 4 months since the last conversation. How have things been going? What's working? What's not working? What are we learning?
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I appreciate you reaching out and sparking this conversation. And I think this is one of the things that I'll start to do is spotlight some other people in the Magic Mind to just like showcase like this is the real work that it takes to succeed and to build your business and serve your audience and actually get the results that you're trying to get in the online world. And it's not easy. It's not as simple as a lot of people. I wish it was more simple, but building a business, it takes time. It takes tending relationships, and that's the game that we're playing. Is like it's marketing is having conversations, and having conversations takes time. Um,
Mhm.
so you might as well choose a topic that you want to have a lot of conversations around because you're passionate about the topic and the people that are interested in it.
Brad, do you mind if I mention something really quick?
I
So
want you
if
to.
anyone actually is interested, shameless promotion now.
Yep,
Hopefully
this
I
is a
provided some value.
commercial break right here.
But April 8th, I actually am running my signature workshop just to kind of open just to anyone. And it basically is how to grow edible and medicinal mushrooms at home and how to learn to go forage them in the wild, which is such a beautiful journey for supporting your health, your self-reliance, food, all those kinds of things. So
Where do
that's
people
coming
sign
up
up?
April 8th.
What's the link for people to sign up?
It's kind of a funny custom link. So can we just put it in the show notes or
It'll
something?
be in the
Or
show notes. Wherever you're watching or listening to this, it'll be in the show notes. So
people
just
can
check
check
that.
out my course. The course is just themushroomcourse.com. So that's my online course. But watch for the custom link for the actual free webinar where I'm going to teach you how to get started in growing mushrooms and foraging mushrooms. April 8th. That's happening.
Amazing. Chris, great catching up with you. Thank you so much for taking the time and for inspiring the people watching or listening to this.
Heck
Appreciate you.
yeah.
Okay. See y'all soon. Stay awesome.